All right, class, let's get to your answering your participation questions this week. First up, we have
So I'm probably going to be as quick as possible with this.
Edward.
Did I have some problems with working on the this week's project? Yeah, a couple. One in After Effects. Let me go to the customs. It doesn't do. I added the invert channel over to adjustment layers, but it's not adding that effect over it, which I
Mm,
don't know why it's not doing that. And then after the output, I thought it was just because it was in the editing mode, but even in output, it wasn't doing that, which kind of makes sense too, because in here it was doing the same thing, or not doing the same thing, but actually, yeah, it was doing the same thing, because this would have turned at least a little wider, but
yeah, it should have worked.
I don't know why then. Like, the invert channel wasn't working for me. And then in Cinema 4D, uh, even though I have it installed, the red mark or whatever it's called, I can't remember, red spot or whatever for Cinema 4D, it's not letting me access the materials for, like, because this was required for the 3D model or a 3D topology. It just comes out black, and just with this error of the backdrop material not existing.
Okay, yeah, let's address these issues that you have here. First of all, with this one right here, so the Redshift materials, they require a lot more complex settings of lighting. Like you have to have specific lighting in there, and there's a lot more to the Redshift materials than what we're going to be doing in this class right now, since this is just an introductory course. And so if it has this little red mark here at the top that indicates that the material that you're using or object or whatever it is a Redshift object or material or media, whatever. And I recommend do not use those. They will not really work for the rendering process that we're using. And so use other materials. So what I would use is this one specifically down here. I think they used to have a studio backdrop that didn't have this on here, but for some reason, no longer do they have that. And so I would just use this backdrop right here under the node operator. And as like a quick backdrop, right? And then you can throw material onto there and use that. You can try throwing a material onto here, but I don't think it will work. As far as this section of your typography project, um, to be honest, I'm not quite sure what's why it's not working here either because it looks like everything's set up correctly. You have an adjustment layer. You threw the correct invert channel over top of the adjustment layer and then animated the position. Maybe because your position keyframes are all happening at the same time. So you might want to like offset this a little bit. So take these positional keyframes and move them over to the right side of your timeline. Maybe that will help. And I'm not, because what I'm seeing is that um, your adjustment layer is appropriately over top of all of your text. And so when it moves over, when your name, when it animates over Edward, your name like Edward D. Escobar, there it should be showing up. Sometimes I'm not quite sure what's happening. So this is a positional change from here to over here. Maybe what I would do is redo this step over again and see if it helps out that way. Sometimes you can get glitches or like computer issues with After Effects with the software, um, and bugs where just something weird is happening. You have to redo it for some reason. What you could also do is pre-compose all of your text layers here and see if throwing them into a pre-comp will help you when you put that adjustment layer over top of that pre-comp, right? So I would try those two separate options. The first thing I would do is maybe delete this, retry it, see if it works that way, and then if not, pre-compose all of your text layers and then throw an adjustment layer um, over top of the pre-compose layer that you have, and then put that invert effect on top of the adjustment layer and try it that way. So that's what I would do regarding that. Let me hear what else you had to say.
Was to be turned in as a single video or multiple videos, because in
One
the
single
output,
video.
or at least an MP4 with all the scenes, but I didn't know how to output them as one scene, so I just output them individually and then went into After Effects and then added them all together and then output it out. Unless there was like a specific setting in which I could have done that, but I didn't know.
So you composite them all together in one. I feel that sigh, dude.
I
I
guess
get it.
like the anime, like moving the images from one frame to another was easy for me. I guess it's just the effects, like the inverse effects, the movements with the graph. I did the easing and it did not save the easing. Okay, that's another potential problem then, because that is annoying. I thought I, yeah, the curvature for the graph, I guess is another thing I had a little difficulty with, because that's another problem I also came up, which the curvature for it didn't save, or it didn't go through, or it even didn't even automatically go. So I can click a frame, but I won't get. Sometimes I won't get it unless. Yeah, I won't even get it. Yeah, I won't even get the
Okay, so let's go through. Let me open an After Effects. Let me see if I can open this project. Typography. And let's kind of go through these um, together. So it should always be a single MP4 that you're rendering out essentially, unless specifically other stated otherwise under your deliverable panel. And so how you do that is you would have a composition that you could label main, and making sure that that composition is long enough. So I'll just put like, I don't know, 15 seconds here, 24 frames a second. And then I'm going to hit OK. And then what I do is I take all of these compositions. So the easing composition there, and I would bring in my fade composition, and then my contact information, and then your personal contact information as well as the 3D type. And then what you do is you sequence these out, right? So let's say, obviously this would need to be longer. Each composition is several seconds long. You just want it to be on there for as long as the animation is. So that first one's several seconds. We would take this and line it up here. And then I'm going to, if you hit Control K or Command K, if you're on a Mac, it will bring up your composition settings. It's a shortcut key. So I'm going to double this because you will most likely be using a majority of that time, right? And then you would have to have your composition for your personal contact information and then one for your 3D type. And then when you play this back, it's not only going to play this single composition that you have there, but then it's going to go to the next one. And then you actually render out this composition, the main composition, instead of each one separately. I commend you for thinking outside of the box and doing each one separately, but this is how you composite them all together in one video. And then let's say you put it all together. Let's say you had, if I hit Control K again, and you had a full minute long video, and you had, I'm just going to duplicate this one here to hold the place of like the, let's say this were your own personal design contact information, and this one right here was your 3D name. And you have all this extra space, right? What's going to happen is when you play this and it's done, this extra space is just going to be black video, and you don't want that. So what you'll do is you'll come to the end of the composition that you have, the last one, and you're going to hit N as in Nancy on your keyboard, and that's going to bring the play area, the playback area, over to where your playhead is at. This is the playhead. Move it to the end of the sequence, hit the end, and it'll bring it there. And then what you can do is right click and trim the comp to your work area, and that will make it so it is perfectly timed up to whatever compositions that you have in your, or layers, right? This also works like if I wanted to bring a shape layer in here, I could do that. That's a mask. I could bring a shape and it would add layers in there. So it's essentially just taking compositions and stacking them in their own composition, in a main overarching composition. And that's how you create one single MP4. Now, the issue that you're having with the with the graph editor, let me see here. It should be saving this. If you hit Control S on your keyboard, it will automatically save inside of After Effects. Now, let me just, for the sake of an example, I'm going to draw a square here. And we're going to animate this square. So I'm going to hit P. And I am going to separate dimensions here, because let's say I only want to animate it from the left to the right of the screen, which would be just my X positional keyframe. And so I'd go to the beginning of the timeline, hit the keyframe, move my playhead, and then move the object. Right? Now we have the standard looking linear keyframes and a linear, if I click on here, a linear graph right there, right? And now you're grabbing that and you're not seeing these at the bottom here. What you can do, let me close this out of the way, this isn't on your guys' workstation. Neither are these. I want you guys to see just kind of how everything is. So what you can do is if you go back to your dope sheet view and you select these, if you hit F9 on your keyboard, it's going to automatically put take these keyframes from linear and make them eased, right? And so then when you go into your graph editor, you have like a basic easing going on, and then I would hit Control S to save, and then what I would do is grab these to customize that easing, right? Let's say we wanted it to kind of slow down at the end there, go a little fast here, and then slow down, real slow, come to a real slow stop, right? And so that is kind of how you would do that. I'm not sure. I don't see on the bottom of your video, because the entire thing, there's a little bit that's like running off. I would just make sure that you make this full screen so you can see those little options at the bottom of the screen down here. Because if you hit this little button right here, it will ease them for you as well. So I'm not quite sure. I can't see the bottom there, but if you need to, you can't see that, you can hit F9 and it should show up there, or you're going to want to turn this. These should automatically be here. These never go away, so just make sure you come up here, and instead of this, because it looks like it's almost like your program is kind of down like this, and so you just want to make sure that you maybe move this up and expand it to full screen, and you'll be able to see that little section there. All right, let's see.
Unless I click both. Uh,
I would also
yep.
suggest instead
Yeah,
of
no, it's not even letting me. Yep.
clicking, you click off and drag a box over, and that way you're not clicking these and accidentally moving them, because that happens a lot. So click and drag a box over top of your keyframes.
Nope. It's not even letting me click those.
And the other
I
thing
would have to
is,
do this then.
there you go. Okay, so
Okay,
you
sorry,
do
no.
have that at the bottom.
Sidetracking. But I guess I wonder if anyone else in the industry has these similar technical issues. Maybe it's just because of the this is a school computer, so I don't know. Maybe it's my settings. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't know if the videos are outdated or there was any updates to the program. I don't know.
Yeah, so overall, your question is kind of like, do other people run into these issues? Yeah, you guys are starting, so this is a new program for you guys to learn. And yes, the overall answer is yes. People in the industry do deal with bugs within the software. Usually, there are a lot when they come out with a new software version, um, and then they spend the rest of that half of the year essentially cleaning it up, right? Finding those bugs, you report them, or they get reported to Adobe, and then they go in there on the back end and they clean them up. So there's a lot of forums online. All you have to do is go on to, let's say, Google, and just type in like your issue that you're having, or if there's an error that pops up, type in the error code and you can
I guess it's just I need to
essentially
get used
Google
to it a
it.
little bit more, and then I'll hopefully one day get used to it. And actually, no, going back to Cinema 4D, another problem was, which I'm starting to see is becoming a recurring issue. I will set the project to 120 frames, 5 seconds, 24 frames, what mathematically, it'll be a second off or a second later. So for the scenes for the 3D topology, it came out to 96 frames, which I can actually go back to. Topology. So it only came out to 96 frames, even though I recorded up to 120 frames. So I don't know if it just ended early or it just crashed or something. I don't know. Yeah, it was a little frustrating, but
I can see
yeah,
that
hopefully
for
it'll be a
sure,
little bit
Ken.
easier in the future. But
Yeah, let me see. So as far as that goes, sometimes, let me close this out. My computer, my laptop doesn't necessarily love running both Cinema 4D and um, After Effects at the same time. Sorry guys, my brain's just starting to work. This morning is 10:30 and I feel like my brain's been a little bit sluggish this morning. Oh, clearly my computer is as well. Mutual feelings, I guess. All right. So, let's say you have your project settings here. You change it to 24 frames a second, and you want it to be 5 seconds, right? So 24 times 5 is 120 frames. And then you have 120 frames down here. If I bring this up, you have the full 120 frames down here. Now, if this gets moved, this little bar right there, like if you're trying to zoom in or whatever, this will affect that. And so you want to make sure that you're fully all the way back on the 120 frames before you start rendering it out. And then if for some reason it's still not rendering out those last couple frames, what I would do is I would come into my render settings here, and instead of going to all frames, you want to hit all frames, right? And go from 0 to 120. So you want to make sure that is correct as well at first. And if it is and you're still getting the issue, then I would just do a manual frame and then just type in which specific frames need to be, like if you still had the 96 to the 120th frame that weren't rendering out, I would click those and then it would just render out those specific frames for you. So check those things and make sure they're correct before you go to render them out, right? All right. Next question here. Good question, so Edward. Let me see. Wrong one. Right here.
Hi guys. So I haven't been able to get very far
I believe this is Paige.
in these projects, but I'm really struggling because I'm trying to make a keyframe right here, but then I can't make another one. I don't get it.
Okay, so After Effects and Cinema 4D are slightly different in the way they keyframe. In After Effects, when you move your playhead and let's say you keyframed your positional keyframe, right? Let's reopen this. See how this goes again. All right, so when you take something, like we'll create that box again, right? And you're gonna keyframe the position. Let's go back into our dope sheet view. And you move the playhead. You've got your keyframe, your initial keyframe position. And then you move the playhead and then you move the object, it automatically creates a keyframe there. Inside of Cinema 4D is different. So when you've created the keyframe and over here on your position change, and then when you move your playhead, right, which you do right there, to you're playing it there, let me see. Let's get to where so there's like we'll say you moved your playhead here to the 15th frame. You would make a change in the ball, so you would move the ball down, and then you would have to re-click this little area. So this little diamond-shaped keyframe right there. And so inside of Cinema 4D, it's not an automatic keyframe that happens once you make a physical change to the object that you have. And you can tell that by this little section, whatever you're changing, will be highlighted orange to notify you, hey, you've made a change here. Do you want to record it? And if you want to, you'll click on that little diamond and it'll turn red, right? To show that you have recorded that change. And if not, it won't record the change, and so then you're just going to not really get any motion at all. So let me see real quick. I don't want to save that. Let's open up Maxon again. Cinema 4D. All right. So I have a cube. I'm going to take the cube and we're going to move it from here. I'm going to keyframe. Then I'm going to move my playhead. And then I'm going to move the object. Notice it turns orange here. I'm going to click that to record it. And so then if I were to play this back now, you'll notice that it'll start there and it'll move there. And so you just have to make sure you're manually adding in those keyframes whenever you make a change. It's a little bit more of a pain, but there's a reason that Cinema 4D happens that way, and it's really because you're working in 3 dimensions, which can be a lot more confusing, and so it just wants to make sure that you are actually wanting to make that change.
Make another one. I don't get it. Let me know.
I understand your guys' struggles. Okay. Next question.
So, I'll just get right into it with my questions. because I actually just screwed up on something. So I'll just go ahead and show you what I did wrong. So coming into here, I had everything all lined up and good to go over here, and then somehow I screwed everything up by triple clicking on a few of these things, and then I just kept trying to solve it by clicking on other things, and then it just spiraled. And now now the black and white ball that I created and all the stuff I did for that, I think all of that is gone now.
So it's not gone. What happened is you essentially opened up the let me see here. You just opened up the specific object. Let me go to the bouncing ball here. So when you double click on an object, it is going to solo, essentially make it so you're only looking at that object, right? So I've got my three balls here. Let me move that up. I'm going to take over shut the transparent background off so you can kind of see this. This pale color sucks. But let's say I triple click on this and then, or double click on that, and then all of a sudden I'm in this thing, and where did all my stuff go, right? So up at the top of your scene here, it shows that I've just opened up specifically the 3D ball layer because that's the one I clicked on. So all you have to do is you have to close that, and then you just move over to your actual main composition right there, and it'll bring you back to where you're at. I know that clicking on things multiple times can bring you into, like if I double click on the floor, it's going to bring me in to just see the floor layer right now. And it looks weird, right? Because the floor should be at the bottom. But what I had done in the original video is you take this solid layer and I moved it down, right? I changed the position down to the bottom of the scene, and then I masked it out, right? And so when you look at it in its original form, it's going to look like the masking is happening at the top, but when I go back to the original over here, it's actually been moved down to the bottom, right? And so these are just essentially opening up to solo that image or that whatever layer is down here that you double clicked on.
I don't really know what happened.
So all you have to do is come up here and click here.
If I click on this, it's just stuck. So I don't really know. I don't really know what happened.
The panic is real.
But yeah, I screwed it all up. So yeah, I need to fix that somehow, or just completely redo it. Or if you have suggestions, of course, you can just let me know. But yeah. I did also want to ask how you guys might have had everything sync up upon bringing it in, because I brought all of these balls in, and the let's see, the purple one, that one came in good. The black and white one came in all synced up with this one. But I brought the Adobe Animate one, the one that we drew 2D. That one is like a lot faster for some reason. I don't really know why.
So the reason that it's faster is because you have to interpret that footage, right? Because you created it at 12 frames a second. So you just come over here and you'll notice right over, let me go to my main composition. Seems a lot faster, right? What you'll do is the 2D bouncing ball. You'll right click on there. Will it be in this one? the guide in there. What you would do, let me see here, is this one. If you just dragged in, so if you brought in a PNG sequence like this, right? You just have to right click and go to interpret footage, main, and then you can change the FPS there. If you brought in the actual project file from Adobe Animate, it's going to look like this. And so what you're going to want to do is you want to go under here, and under the ball, you're going to right click and go to interpret footage, main, and then you would change this to 24 frames a second. You'll hit enter, and then that should, it made mine a little faster. So what I'm going to do is come in here and interpret it back to the 12 frames a second. But that's the only issue, right? Is so you have to interpret it either way, either to the 24 frames a second to match the other ones, or to 12 frames a second to slow it down a little bit, right? And so that's going to be how it's going to line up kind of with this. It's not going to be perfect, right? Because the timing, you're hand drawing this one, so the style is going to be different. And it's not going to be perfectly synced up with the other three. But it will be, in general, synced up. Like, right, it's kind of falling at the same time. But the way you draw it is just more of an exaggerated quick fall. And it's not going to be perfectly mathematically drawn the way these images are done with the computer automatically doing it for you, right? And so it shouldn't be much faster, but it should be generally in sync with the rest of the ball.
Yeah, so that was probably also part of what caused me to click around and like do things I probably should have done that were off of the directions that we were provided. So that was my mistake. I should not, I shouldn't poke around and do my own thing if I don't know the basics.
Well, you learn that way.
But yeah, let's see what else. What about things that went good this week? Okay, so I finally got to completing all the balls, so I guess that's a good thing. So I just really got to get this part done. I might just redo the whole thing at this point. I mean, it was only a 22-minute video, so I'll just maybe just do that or something. Let's see, what about this week's work was difficult or unclear? I would say it was difficult at times, learning the programs, just because of me getting frustrated sometimes. Like when something isn't as intuitive as I would want it to be, and I screw up on something, then I get frustrated, and that's just a me problem that I need to get past, but
I don't think it's just a you problem. A lot of students end up doing this, so you're not in a boat alone, right? You're with other students there. It's a very robust program. I mean, just look at it. Like, there's so much going on. There's different tabs and panels over here. There's different ones at the top here. There's different ones here. There's different options down here, multiple areas that.
And then there's a couple issues I ran into, just getting everything together and going in between programs to, get stuff done. I encountered some issues, which you know about, because we talked about it, but we're figuring that out, so it'll be fine there. But yeah, that's everything. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
No problem, Derek. All right. Let's go to Chance here.
Just wanted to kind of ask a question while I work on this character I've been working on for a while. Would you know what exactly would be a reasonable face count for something in a game engine? I know it would be fairly small. I have an idea of what I want to go for, but at the same time, I want to get a few other perspectives on it as well. It's not really related to much of the classwork. It's just something that might be worth a small discussion about.
Yeah, Chance. So, when you say face count, I'm assuming you mean poly, right? Like how many polygons you need to make it run smoothly. Um, I think it just kind of depends what game engine that you're using, and also depends on how complex the model is. Um, a good resource to speak with on that is going to be Casey Farina. So if you're in Slack under general, you can either write Casey directly, or you can go to the general chat and you can ask that question. I don't work very often inside of game engines, so I can't give you a straightforward answer to that. And there's variables that come with it as well. So, um, I think that it would just kind of depend on how complex the surroundings are, how complex the character model is, what game engine you're using, things like that. And so maybe Casey would be better equipped to answer that for you versus me, where I mostly work inside of like After Effects, Cinema 4D, things like that, and less in a game engine currently. But good question. Good question there, and way to start thinking like outside of what you're just learning right now. But for next one, just if you have anything more related to this class, that would be awesome because I will guarantee be able to most likely answer that. I know that was guarantee be able to most likely doesn't make sense, but I'll have a stronger chance of answering your question for you. So, all right, Manny.
Hey, so this is gonna be a very quick question, but every time I try to add a material to
Same issue.
my
They're redshift materials.
my objects here, they always end up just turning black for some reason. Is there a simple solution to this?
Yeah,
Please
just
let me
don't
know.
use these ones.
Okay.
If it has the little redshift option in the top, I would just not use those at all. Like I said, they take a specific render setting and stuff like that. And so I would just come up into your search presets up there. Let me show you really quickly. Let me close this. Don't save that. Let's go into Maxon. Alright, let's go into our asset browser here, and I will have an object. Let's just click on a box. And if I type in plastic here, let me see, and I go to the materials tab, and I look here and I'm like, oh wow, I really like this glossy one, and I go to throw it on, and the exact same thing's going to happen, right? It's all black. So I'm going to delete that material, and I'm going to look for these ones right here, like the green plastic one, and then I'm going to throw that on, and that one will show up. So yeah, stay away from anything that has the little red 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sectagon. I don't know, octagon thing. Octagon's obviously 8, so but just don't. If it's got this little red shape up there, I actually think it's a cube. But either way, don't use those ones. Just stay away from them. They require specific settings, render settings, and we don't work with those in this class. They're pretty advanced, so. Right, to Marion.
Hello, my name is Marion Fish. I didn't run into too many problems during this week. However, when I was going into cinema, I hope it's showing. I think it's showing. I did run into a problem whenever we were like supposed to put like materials onto things. For whatever reason, mine would always, whenever I put like a material on something, it would always show up black. Hold on, let me just
Yeah.
throw in one of the things I used, and then if I were to put a material on it, so let's say if I want this right. What?
That's because
Okay,
you didn't
maybe
use the
hold on.
redshift one.
I gotta,
This is funny. Your face just said it all. Because you didn't use a redshift material here. I know you were running into that issue. I believe you, 100%.
need to pull out one of my other project files because maybe it was something else. But I was running into an issue during, I think it was the bouncy balls, where I couldn't color them properly, and that's why they turned out kind of weird. Let me see if I can. Yeah, let's just pull up this one real quick, and I'm gonna just see if I can throw a color. I don't know, maybe it got fixed, but I had this weird situation. Maybe you know what it is, but like for whatever reason, I randomly couldn't like change the colors
I believe you.
of the
I
things
know
because it would
it's
just turn straight black. Like I couldn't change the color, so I had to like manually like give it a random color. I was running into the problem when I was creating the texts, so my text might show up a little weird. I'm sorry for that. Another question that I had was I was curious if we were going to just have assignments show up for the entire week, or if we're going to have something like we did this week where we had assignments like originally due on Friday, like all of our assignments, at least that I thought. And then like Thursday came, and then all of a sudden we got assignments on Sunday. I was wondering if that was going to be a continuous thing, or if we were going to get assignments just set for the entire week or not.
So,
Because I'm just gonna be honest and say that I probably won't be checking Canvas a whole ton, because usually I'll check in the beginning of the week, see what's due, and then start working on it in the middle of the night. Most of my work I do at night. It's just when I have my free time. So I'm also sorry about having the this assignment late. I don't know if I can turn that in or not. I sent it to you through Canvas. Maybe if you need an email instead with it. But it was only available to the 9th, while the other ones are available till like a couple days afterwards. So I don't know if I've just missed my opportunity on that one. But I have finished it, and I did send it in if there was a possible chance of me getting credit for it all
I'll
the
give you
same.
credit for that. So, like I was explaining before, what happens is a lot of students, like if I let them continuously not, like if I don't put a deadline on there, students won't turn things in. And especially because this class is extra fast, I have to do that to make sure that you guys stay on track. The bouncing ball issue was because um, I changed that to the 9th because people were having issues with getting the computers from the school, and so I extended that one. But in general, what I'm going to try and do is on the Monday of every week um, is going to be to post new videos or new projects for you guys, so that at the beginning of the week you guys know the projects that you have. Um, and can get them in. Now, this is my first time teaching this class in the summertime, so I'm learning as well with you guys. Um, as far as like what works best for you, I find that a lot of what I'm seeing is a lot of summer students work nights or work on their class school work at nights and not necessarily during the day. And so, and that's fine, but I would check Canvas as often as possible. And so, like for this upcoming week, right, I have the first project, the Principles of Motion Design inside of After Effects, where we're doing weight and squash. We're going to be doing it both in After Effects and in Cinema 4D. They're two separate projects. The first one's due on the 19th. The second one's due on the 22nd. I noticed that I think when having both projects due on the same day, it feels like a lot for you guys, and so I'm going to split it up by a couple days, right? So right now you have the rest of the week to work on the After Effects one, which is due on the 19th, and the Cinema 4D one, which is due on the 22nd. Now, each of these, if I go into here, you'll notice that scrolling down, and at the bottom here, there's a due date of the 19th, but it is open and available until the 21st. So I give you guys a couple day buffer to be able to turn this in, where I will not give you, I won't take off points, right? So like if you get it in, it's due June 19th, great. I want you to get it in then. But if you can't get it done on June 19th, go to the, you have until the 21st, right? Here's the rubric that explains how I'm going to be looking at things and grading things specifically. And then this talks about your deliverable, what I'm looking for to be sent into Canvas when you guys go to actually, like if I go into the student view here and I scroll all the way down, you can see how I'm going to grade it, what I'm going to be looking for in each section, and then the deliverable, what I want to be sent to me. I'm trying to rearrange these a little bit so they're a little cleaner for you guys to look at. And then, so you have up until that time to submit. You have up until the 21st to actually submit it. It says it at the top for you guys. So it's available until this time, but I would like to see it this time. And then always with the participation grades, I'm going to leave this here. When it comes to participation grades, those are always going to be due. I'm going to make those due on every Sunday night. So that's going to be a consistent thing that you're seeing, is Sunday nights are when the participation grades are due. So I would suggest still checking Canvas as often as possible, because things are subject to change. But I do try and get all of the assignments and stuff posted the first of the week, like either Monday or Tuesday. It takes me a little bit. I do work a full-time job outside of teaching at a marketing firm, so I have to obviously do that right away first, and then address this stuff when I have a moment to do so. So at nights I try and get this done by Monday nights, right? Have this all ready to go. And I'll always post the participation grades. You can always turn these participation grades as well in early if you want, as long as it's in by June 18th. These are the only things that have the super hard deadline, because this is how I take attendance, right? But these, like, if you're gonna miss it by a day or two, let me know. You can send it to me in my inbox here, just like you did, Marion, and I'm not gonna fault you guys for that. But I don't want to see things being turned in like weeks late, right? I mean, that just what happens is at the end of the semester, students haven't turned in a bunch of work, and they're backed up with projects, and they can't keep up with them, and they're turning them into me, and then I have to give them feedback on all of their work, which is fine. But when I have 6 or 7 students turning in 3 to 4 projects each late, it just makes everyone's life harder, including mine at the end, when I'm having to go through all of this stuff and give you feedback. And I want you guys to be able to have my undivided attention and appropriate time with that. And so I don't want to have to speed through them, because it's the end of the semester and we want to get it done, right? So that's kind of how it is. I would just continuously check. Participation grades are going to be every single Sunday. They're going to be due every single Sunday by midnight. And then these, I'm going to just 2 projects a week, okay? So and I'll space them out by a couple days for you guys. All right, but good questions there, Marion. Let me go to the next. Here, Melanie.
Hello, Professor Amanda. I only have one question for this week, and that is about your extension time for late work, or if you're pretty strict about not turning or not accepting any late work in general. I did see that you did mention on the syllabus about turning in work for August 3rd or 8th. That's when the semester ends. I don't know if that, is occurred for every single piece of work, or is it just not, a rule for all of them. But yeah, that's my question. Thank Thank you.
Yeah, so like I was just saying before, I want to see, I give you guys the buffer, right? So um I'll show you guys the other example here. So you guys have one due. This Cinema 4D one is due on the 22nd of June, but I give you until the 25th to turn it in, right? I would like to see it in by that time. If not, you guys can email me them, but I really don't want to see that over and over and over again. I would like to see you guys putting in the appropriate amount of time because this class does go by fast and there's a lot of projects to get done. And so if you guys stop working on it and you just end up backed up with work, I'm telling you, it just gets more and more and more complicated from here on out. And so really try and stick to these deadlines if you can. And the only one I'm stickler on specifically, like I said, are the participation grades. Now, inside the syllabus, um, where you mentioned that the due date for let me see here, August, this one right here. No, this is the end of the semester, and I cannot, based on like what my job is, I cannot accept any late work after this class. That date, because that date is the end of the semester. I have to have grades in, within a couple days of that for the school, and so I cannot accept any late work outside of that time. Um, if you're communicative with me and you're emailing me and letting me know, like, hey, something came up, this and this and that, I'll work with you guys. I'm not an unreasonable person. And so, keeping that in mind, though, I do like to see you guys sticking to deadlines as much as possible because in the real world, if you're doing this job and you're missing deadlines, you will get fired from a job. And they don't give you extensions like you'll get here. Um, Clients need work for conferences that they're doing or releasing and launching products and stuff like that. And so if you don't have your end of the bargain held up, you'll get fired from jobs. And it's a small community, and so word travels fast, and you don't want to start getting into that bad habit. And so I suggest staying on with the deadlines, and you'll be fine from there. All right, Ryan.
Hi, so I was wondering about what some of the tools in After Effects and Cinema 4D are. I've explored a couple, like in Cinema 4D, there's the rotation and move and things like that, but there's a couple where I'll hover over them and I see the names, but they don't really mean anything to me. I've been working with Belle, the tutor, and she's used a couple, but I haven't fully understood just exactly how she knew which ones to use. So I was wondering if you could explain more about those. I had some issues with the keyframes this week, but I was able to work through it with Belle and get everything set up. Keyframes in seconds. I was setting keyframes rather than seconds. So, I had quite a few questions at the beginning of the week. I worked through a lot of them with Belle. And that was very helpful. I seem to understand Cinema 4D more than After Effects, so some of the tools and settings in After Effects are a little confusing to me, and in the videos I feel like they aren't always explained, so I was wondering if you could just kind of talk about some of the tools that we'll be using and explain them better. I was also messing around in Cinema 4D with the reel animation and making a towel drop, and I knew how to drop it down, but I didn't really know how to drop it to sideways so that it fell. Belle helped me figure that out, and it ended up explaining what some of the axes were, like bank and things like that. But I think talking about those a little more could be helpful for me in the future. I understand what's happening during the videos, but then remembering and trying to do stuff on my own without doing it step by step can be a little confusing, and I'd like the ability as we move on to not do things step by step, and I think I'm going to need that. So I think that would be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, good overall observations and stuff here. So with the tools inside of Cinema 4D, there's a lot as well that happens with inside of here. We won't use all of them right away. Some of them are going to be situational depending on what your project, what you're trying to do within your project, right? But there's different ways to do the same thing within certain programs, right? So here you have your moving tool where you're moving your camera around. You have your pan tool, which I'm sorry, your scale tool, which you're scaling in and out as far as like camera movements go, and then your orbiting, where you're orbiting the camera. But then there's different ones for rotating, like if you want to rotate your object, you hit R, right? And you'll move it this way or move it this way on your y-axis. And if you want to move it, you'll hit E, and you can move it with these access points, right? T is for scale, make that smaller, make it larger. And so ERT is specifically for your object. If you hold down 1 and you move, click and move, right? These are camera movements. 1 moves your camera around, right? Just the same as this move tool up here. 2 is going to scale in and out of the camera movement, just like this tool up here. And then holding down 3 and clicking and dragging is going to orbit your camera as well, right? If you end up out of view here and you're like, I can't figure out where I was at, you want to go up to the view and I think frame default. And then it'll set your camera up to the default frame. And if your cube, you want your cube to be back to normal, you just come into your attributes panel here under coordinates tab and you just zero everything out. And then it'll bring that back to your original state that you brought the object into. There are a ton of tools in here that we're eventually going to get to, and that we might not be working with just quite yet. And so I would maybe, keep that in mind that we're just at the beginning of class, and so there's a lot more to learn, which we'll get to. There's also, if you go up to here and you go to help, and you can go to Max on support. You can do quick online learning, where it will take you to an area where you can to Cineversity website, which is specifically for Cinema 4D, and you can get information from there. You can also hover over things, right click them, and show help. So, which is really nice. So if if you're looking at something, we haven't used the tool, you're wanting to know what it is, you can right click on it, show help, and it'll bring you to the explanation of what that is. That's what's really nice about Cinema 4D here. Like if I go into here and I'm like, oh, what does the shear do? I think it can show help, and it will take you to an explanation of what that specific deformer, right, that we're using does. And so sometimes if it's from here, right, you have to apply it and then you'll have to right click on that and go down to show help. And you can also, hitting Shift C, you can search things up that you might need here. Like if I needed that shear deformer, I could just start SHE and it'll bring that up for me there. And you can click on that and it'll double click and it applies it to your scene. So Cinema 4D is easier in that aspect, right? And we'll go over some more of the tools. After Effects can be a little bit more complicated, but you can always do the same. There's forums online where you can ask what specific tools are. I don't think you can right click. Let me open that up and we'll look at that. Let's not save that. I'm going to open up After Effects real quick and we'll see what we can do there. Also, if you guys are on the home page and you click on the Miro board here, if you're on the home page in Canvas, you click on this. I have set up a just a quick notes document here where you guys can work off of that gives you shortcuts, right, and explains different tools here, or shortcuts to get to those tools. You can click on this these links right here, and watch some videos. And these videos explain to you, you know, about different tools inside of After Effects specifically for that one. And then there is Illustrator shortcuts here, Cinema 4D. Let's see if we can add a Cinema 4D tools PDF. Let's see that. Release 11. I'm not sure when this was released, but no, this is an older one. It's going to be easier just to go into Cinema 4D and right click on the tool and just show help, right? This is good for shortcuts. This will help you to work faster. And then if you want to learn what the tools are specifically, you can always screenshot that specific tool and send that to me and ask me what it is if you're curious and wanting to know how to use that. And then as class goes on, like I said, we'll do step by step by step. And then towards the last couple assignments, you guys are going to have more creative freedom on creating kind of more of what you want versus sticking to a specific type of project that I have for you guys. You guys will come up with the ideas and all that kind of stuff. So as far as things go inside of After Effects, let's create a new composition. I'll just hit OK here. And let's say you want to know what these ones do. You can go up to the help and about After Effects or After Effects help. You can click on this. There's also tutorials in there as well. So you can go in-app tutorials, online tutorials if you want, references to expressions, which we will do later in the class, but we don't really deep dive into this. This is very high level stuff. So you really need to learn the program more before you start doing coding type of things. And yeah, but these are your basic toolbar up here, and you'll learn what these tools do as we get further in class. We won't use all of the effects here because there's a ton of effects, but we'll use some of them. And a lot of stuff you end up kind of learning as you go and you're making a project. You're like, I need to do this. What do I need to use to do that? So.
Okay, hi. So I was on Media Quarter and I didn't know how to render this onto After Effects. It didn't work. It wanted me to like do a whole bunch of things, and I was just wondering how I could put all those files in one. All right,
Yeah.
bye.
So you create a PNG sequence. So, for instance, let me close that out. I had, let's see here, the bouncing ball. I think I used it under templates. There we go. I'm going to open this one up. All right, so apparently it's not there. I think I made this template was a separate one. Either way, let's just throw in an object there. And so you'll go up here to your render settings. And let me make this a little bit bigger. And you'll make sure all of this information is correct and matches your project settings, right? So let's say we want to set this up correctly. I'm going to hit Control V, Shift V, Shift C, not that one. I'm sorry, Shift D as in dog. Which one is it? Shift V, Shift C, Control D. I don't know why I was Shift for everything else, Control for that. My brain just went blank first. So Control D as in dog, and it's going to bring you up to your project settings. We're going to change this. It should always be 24 frames a second. You guys should always do this at first. and we'll say we want it 5 seconds, so 24 times 5. Your FPS times however many seconds is how you get that. And so we'll go into here into our render settings now, and we'll make sure we want this 1920 by 1080. So we want to make sure that that matches our frames. In fact, I think that, no, you do that here. So make sure it's 1920 by 1080. 72 DPI is fine. Let's change the frame rate back to 24 to match our, we want to make sure it matches our project settings. And we want to change frame range from current frame to all frames. And that will make sure that it's rendering out every single image. Now you go to save, and you're going to choose the file location. You're going to change the TIFF to a PNG sequence. And then you want to make sure the 8-bit is okay. That's fine. Let's say I was going to save it to my desktop, which I don't suggest you do. I suggest you create a separate folder for it, right? And then you'll close out of this, and then you go on to render the actual file, the sequence, and then what happens is you end up with a PNG sequence that looks like this, and from there you go into, no, let's not save this. From there I would go into my After Effects file, and so you're not actually rendering out an MP4 from Cinema 4D. You're rendering out a series of images that you're going to import into After Effects, and then you, essentially that sequence of images, which is what a video is, will be imported into here, and then you throw it on your timeline and it shows up with the rest. So what you would do then is you go to Import, File, and you'll navigate to where your PNG sequence is. You click on the one ball, make sure that here it says PNG sequence, and then footage, and you'll hit import, and then it'll show like a little icon here of a stack of images, and that's showing that it's imported all of those images that you've created. And so at that point you can drag this onto your timeline in your composition, and your entire video will be present, your entire render from Cinema 4D. And so that's how you bring those into, you bring your renders from Cinema 4D into After Effects to turn into an MP4. Alright, let's go to David.
Hello, everyone. I just have a question about switching from the trial license of Cinema 4D to the student license. I've gone through the video and I've followed it and paid the $10 and gotten the key, the code.
So
but
David and
I still can't change from the trial to the student license. I'm having some issues with that. If I could get some help on that, that'd be.
Yeah, so David and I addressed this yesterday, to where his he would log into his Maxon app here, and his Maxon app was linked to his, up here it should be linked to your student email address, but when he would open Cinema 4D, it was saying that it was a trial and that it wasn't accessing his license. And so what I had him do is I had him come over here and uninstall Cinema 4D through the app, the Maxon app, right? And then reinstall, then restart the computer and reinstall it. And once he did that, I believe it worked for him. The other thing, that you can release the license right here. The other thing you guys should know about the Maxon, the Cinema 4D licensing, is it's only allowed on one computer at a time. So if you've logged on to a personal computer and then you have to log on to the school computer, you have to release the license from the one and then log in to the one through your other PC or school computer or whatever you're using. So it's a little confusing with the Maxon. I don't know why they make it so difficult, but they do. And it becomes an issue for students in the beginning here, but we have since fixed that up. And if anyone else runs into that issue, please let me know and we'll get that addressed as well. All right.
Hello. So for my question this week, it wasn't really related to the
I
work
think
or
this is
the
Nyla.
assignment we did, but mostly just what was the difference or the main difference between abstract art and surreal art. Since I was looking at the artwork of Salvador Dali mostly and comparing it to the abstract art I've been seeing, and I know some of it is like kind of similar but mostly different, but I was just wondering what the main difference was since I'm seeing some of the same elements in both artwork, and I was just wondering if there's like a fine line between abstract art and surreal art.
So surrealism is taking something that is very real and turning it into something that is surreal. For instance, when you guys are creating, like you might have an apple, but that apple's not going to be the size of a room, right? Realistically, that apple is, I don't know, the size of your hand. Obviously, you can pick it up and hold it. But if you were to increase the size of that to the size of a building and have something else there in comparison for scale, that's surrealism, right? So looking at the Salvador Dali, who is obviously the godfather of surrealist imagery, versus Pablo Picasso, who is an abstract artist. His are he essentially takes like an image that we know and breaks it down into simpler shapes and abstracts the object to the point where the viewer kind of has to look and try and figure out what they're looking at versus not necessarily picking it up right away, right? Like this whole face is fully distorted. I know it kind of blurs the lines of like what surrealism here is. Like this composition here where Salvador Dali's all of his imagery is together, right? There's like this fish that's swallowing a tiger, which is super abstract in and of itself, but um, still realistic looking, right? The horse is still pretty realistic looking, but the legs are really extended, really long. So they're objects that we can pick out and point out and tell what it is right away. The clock that's being melted, time melting, time moving into itself, right? There's things to think about that. But then if you look at like the Cubism phase of Pablo Picasso, his are a series of just shapes that come together to create a face. It is not like this would almost be more of a surrealistic look to his imagery. Um, this one's definitely super abstracted, right? Because it's not necessarily super. We obviously know it's a person, but there's like more to this that we have to look to try and figure out what it is. Same here, right? This is a person, um, but created out of these abstract shapes. And so the lines do kind of blur a little bit. You're right on that. But there is a definite difference. Like let's see some other surrealism art here. There's another let me see. Like this one's a great one. Like the face doubles as not only like it's not only a face, right? But it's doubling as a valley here for other things to be present. This is surrealist but very abstract at the same time. So the lines blur, but surrealism is more recognizable right away. Versus abstract, which kind of takes you a second to look and to combine everything together to figure out what you're looking at. This is more just like a mind, screws with your mind, right? You're like, oh, weird, what is happening here? A girl without the rest of her face. I mean, yeah. Versus, let's see some other abstract art. And there was a great, if I go back, great definition. It doesn't attempt to represent an accurate depiction, right? Whereas surrealism is more of an accurate depiction, like I was saying. Let me go forward here. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the face, right? Like this could convey different emotions or something that the artist was envisioning at the time when they were looking at it. There is another famous abstract artist, Jackson Pollock, who does what looks like just splashing paint along here. But it's more complex than that. I think he used to listen to specific music, and the music would inspire his motions of his strokes and the colors that he was using. And this is definitely more depictions of emotional states versus something that is real in the world that you can initially see and understand. Good question, though. Make me thinking of the art side of it versus the technical side of animation. All right. Lazaro.
Hello. So I had a question about using my own image as a asset in Cinema 4D. So when you were doing the photo frame and you were trying to import that one photo of the cat and it didn't work, is there a way where I could actually use like my own photo?
Yeah, you can absolutely.
Would I
use
need
your
to
own
like
photo.
drag that into the asset library, or is there like another way I have to like convert it to a texture, or
Nope,
there's
you
like
don't have
another way?
you might have to convert it to a texture. I believe I went over in the video how to, I figured out in the second half of that class how to actually put that in there. And so you can use your own imagery. Let me see here. Let me go into Cinema 4D. I'm sorry, I have to keep closing and opening it, you guys. It's just on my laptop. I've been having audio issues since I've downloaded. Oh, sorry. I've been having audio issues on my main PC since I downloaded this audio like manager application, and it just kind of has been messing things up for me. And so I had to use this right now for. So let me just type in picture. Let's bring in a picture frame. I'm bringing this square one right here. Alright, zoom into this. And let's rotate it because I believe, yeah, front side here. Let's move our frame a little bit. And if we drop this down, I think under the picture is what you're going to click. And basic. Under layer here, display color, material, custom. Aha. So you could do a layer, and then you could bring in, let me see, let's do it on a material. Let's save an image. Let's say we have like, you brought in a picture of a mountain, or you have it, let's do it that way. Let's save just a mountain picture. Mountain images. Save it to the desktop. Each one of these objects are a little bit different, but we have a JPEG saved. Let's try and bring that into, go to desktop, grab that image. Let's try and drop that into here. Save image as a still image. No, I'm just trying to save it here. Like I said, each one of these are different, so it's really learning where to drop the specific part. Let's see. Let's make it a material, like I said. So we'll come up to here to the material manager and picture placement. Place texture here. And so instead of the texture, right, which you can put there, we're going to click this little file icon and we're going to navigate to where we had our image. The image is not in the project search. Yes, you do want to do that. And then it should have, let's double click on that. This one's kind of, we loaded the image. You can click on this little drop down menu there and do that. And the image is, actually, what we want to do is drop it into the reflectance texture, because you want to make sure it had gone to the color texture. That's where it defaulted when you open the material. So let me just go through this process again. I had double clicked on this material to open up the material editor, and initially it had brought me to this color channel right here, and that's where I put the texture. This is wrong. Make sure you're putting it into the one that is checked here. And so we'll go to texture. We're going to load an image here. We'll navigate to where it was. Right there. We're going to open that. Yes, we're going to create the path. And then all of a sudden the image is put into here. Right? So you can absolutely use your own image for creating like a picture in a picture frame. Alright. So let me go through that with a different one real quick for you, because that was interesting, right? So if I go in here again and I type picture and I want to use it for, let's say, this frame. Let's bring this one in. I'm gonna close. If you open your material, let's shut this one picture off. We're going to undo that. And then we're going to double click on this texture here, go to the reflectance, load an image, desktop, where are my mountain images? Yes, always save that, and then it'll load that in there for you. So that is how you create pictures inside of picture frames, and it can be any image you choose it to be. So it could absolutely be a personal image. All right, you guys, let's go to the last question. I know this is a long video, but here we have Paige.
Hello. I guess for this week, I have some questions about trying to get the picture in the picture frame. I tried to follow along with the videos. I even changed the frame, but I thought I followed every step, but I mean,
let's see. Hopefully
just put the pictures in here.
Yeah, it's under the color. Yours is under the layer color as well, Paige, so you want to put it under
it just wouldn't show
the reflectance.
Like I said, I tried changing the frame too, and
again, Paige, you'll go up here to this little ball icon with a little curve underneath it. That's your material manager. You're going to click on that, and then you're going to click on the texture that says place image here, and then you're going to go to the reflectance channel, and which it seems like you're in.
just wouldn't work, so I just kept.
But try it that way. It might be on the incorrect texture. So see if that works for you. And then
Left it.
let me go back to this.
In addition, just like I'm gonna be out of town, so I won't be able to.
I'm sorry.
Just wanted to show. Like I said, I tried changing the frame too, and it just wouldn't work, so I just kept left it for this because I just could not figure it out. I'm gonna be out of town, so I won't be able to get out. But anyway, in addition, just like my other one. I originally wanted to like put a window in, but I wasn't sure if there's a way to like, would I have to design the whole thing if I wanted like
the windows are
it not to be a wall? Like for example,
a little more complex.
Like for the door and stuff.
Yes, you would have to essentially. Yeah, you would have to create a hole in this space, which you could do by doing the following. Let me see here. And then you can always put an image on the outside because it will render as like an alpha channel there. So making sure, let's do this from scratch, right? Okay, let's create a cube. And let's say this were your wall for some reason, right? It's extra long, make it extra tall. We want to put a door in there. Let's search for a door. Put that one in. I believe that's the one you had. Throw that on there. Alright, let's bring that door down, move it forward a little bit here. And we have a door frame. Okay. Let's close this. Let's rotate so we can see. Alright, and so let's select our cube. And we're going to increase the segments on the cube here. Let's do 10 by 10 by 10. And then I'm going to turn this cube into an editable object by hitting C. And I want to go into the polygon mode here. And I'm going to select all of these ones that I don't want, and I'm going to delete them. And now we have to do it on the other side, right? Because there's two sides to this. So I'm going to reverse here. I'm going to select these ones and delete them. And then at the bottom, I'm going to want to, you can leave the bottom. I mean, there's a bunch there. We don't need all of these, so. I probably shouldn't have put extra sections at the bottom here, but you would want to delete all of these because we only needed one extra section there. And then let's move this back around. We're going to delete this one right here. And then when you render this out, it's going to have an alpha channel there. So you would want to go to your render settings and under save, you guys should always be saving with the alpha channel. Remember clicking that button there. And so when you bring this into After Effects, you can throw some kind of like outdoor image behind it, right? That would sell that it were outside. So you can do the same thing using a plane. If we had the plane here and we rotate the plane 90 degrees, oh, I grabbed it by multiple. Move back over here. Let's delete this cube here and select our plane. Go to coordinates and change this to 90. So it's like a perfect 90-degree angle now. Bring that up. I'll bring the door up. down here a little bit. Grab that door, hit T. So we need to be in object mode, right? This was on little panel. We don't need that. We need to be in object mode. You guys will learn more about this as well as class goes on. And then we'll hit plane. We're going to hit C we need to increase the segments. Sorry, so let me go back. Let's increase the object width segments by, no, that's just 10 by 10. So hit C on there, and then we will go into the polygon mode. And I am going to rotate and then do the same thing. Essentially just select all of these and then deleting them. Didn't mean to move that one out, but you'll delete, right? And then that creates, and you can always, holding down shift, selecting multiple at a time. So that is how you essentially remove that from the outside and then render it out with an alpha channel, and you'll be set to go. Do that.
And like the window is showing like, you know, the wall, but I wasn't sure if there was a way.
Yeah.
Additionally, I just wanted to make sure I was uploading what was like correctly to the stuff. I know we had to upload with the assets, so I had uploaded as a
folder, zipped folder.
A zip file.
Yeah, perfect. You did it exactly.
So, and then I wasn't sure how small the video were going. So
that's perfect.
I think I did the 480.
Yeah, you did great.
But yeah, that's about it. I just really couldn't figure out the picture frame.
You did really well.
The picture in there. I was trying everything.
Yeah, you were close, very close. Try opening it through the material manager and then making sure you're putting that on the correct material.
That's all.
And it looks like the material's been deleted off, so you might want to bring in the new picture frame, like a fresh one, and redo it that way. But good job, Paige. All right, class. Have a good day.